So, for my personal and academic development project, I decided to look into optimization and how to improve my workflow. The personal and academic development project is all about providing students like me with an opportunity to develop some of our skills within like a chosen area of our study, and my chosen area of study would obviously be games and media. So I decided to look at like what would be relevant for me to develop, and I came to the conclusion it would be my workflow. And my reasoning for this is because I am currently employed part-time as an environmental and asset artist at my job with an indie game studio called the Games Production Company. And we're currently working on a video game called Adventures in Albion together. And due to myself being like, my time there being quite limited, due to obviously having uni commitments as well, I wanted to find a way so I could make even more use of the time that I'm there at work. And the best way for me to do that would be to optimize and improve my workflow so that it's faster, I move along much quicker, because I find myself sometimes when I'm at work struggling to find quicker solutions to problems that I'm experiencing. And so I saw this project as an opportunity to do that without having to take away from my work. With my research phase of this project, with my secondary, I took a very open-ended approach, a very kind of relaxed in a way. I wasn't specifically constantly limiting myself, saying this phase is done now. If I found more information later on, I'd include it. And the reason for this was because I was going to put more emphasis on my primary research that I would gather myself, and I was linking that primary research with my experimentation, because I could continue working at my job on my commitments there while also counting that as research and experimentation, because in a way I was researching ways primarily to optimize my workflow, find shortcuts, find quicker ways to make larger scale models or fill out environments. And I also had help from my bosses and co-workers at my job, because they could provide me with information, help. As you can see from the videos on screen at this point, there should be like examples given of how I quickly make like a semi-modular floor or tile set. That's quite useful, especially if you're making some sort of castle or ruin. And there are other ones later on where you can see me quickly making a set of like ruined pillars to provide layout for the environment and stuff like that. And from my secondary research, I found like more theory side, or information relating more to the theory. And by that I mean there was several articles that were interviews about how to utilize the environment in ways that help the player, help guide them through the environment, providing them with like an example from one of the articles was a developer at Ubisoft who worked on Division, talking about how they specifically laid out all of the ruins in the game, The Division, and like the cars and like parts of like the environment have been destroyed in ways that allow the player to utilize them as cover or as like openings to move through buildings, to get through shortcuts. Just trying to build an environment that fits with the theme or the idea of the game, but also is, from a mechanical perspective, is still very... My mind is going blank on the right word here, but helps the player, helps the gameplay become better. Returning back to my primary research briefly, this methodology that I took, I think, was really successful, because I was essentially doing two jobs at once without really seeing an impact in either one. This is primarily thanks to, at the time, my job, I was going through a trial and error stage, as appointed by my boss, where I'd have to do my best to try and create a catacomb level from scratch with no like reference concept art, due to at the time we were quite pushed for a deadline on other subjects, so we didn't have time to really create any. So with that in mind, like I said, the trial and error aspect, it really kind of just like melded very well with this project as I just learned as I went. I found it to be quite successful, as you can see again from the videos above. Yeah. My secondary research, at first I found a series of articles and of course some video tutorials that provided me shortcuts or other quick ways of modelling, creating assets that are much faster than normal. But I left it as open-ended because I wanted to put more pressure onto the primary research or experimentation phase, or whatever the correct term would probably be. And so if I ever wanted to, I could come back and like I'd find more if I needed to, or if I happened to just stumble across something, I could include it in that. I didn't want to just box off and say, this is done, this is over. Looking back over my findings and everything I've discovered or learned, I feel it would have been better for me if I'd perhaps done a timed trial or something similar to that extent beforehand, and then done another one now. Because while I do have the videos that you can see on the screen, I currently do not have a way of showing that there's been like a massive improvement. To me, I feel there has been an improvement. I feel much faster. I noticed that my work looks good and is done at a quicker rate, but it's quite difficult to see this in this work, and that's something I consider a bit of a fumble with this. I really should have done this previously. But I do consider this project a success. I feel like, not just from a practical perspective, but as well from a more theoretical side. I'm getting more into a designer mindset rather than just thinking entirely from a plan, thinking what would look good in this level, thinking what would look good and what would benefit the intentions of this area, of this environment, of this level, what mechanics will come into play. And I think that's really kind of helped me grow as perhaps an environmental artist in more ways than I had originally anticipated. I was just doing this project as a way of getting better at just building things, really very simple, quick start end sort of goal. Yeah, I feel much faster when I'm building, which is the basic minimum ground for success, I think, for this project.